Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we are going to start our Hajj workshop as we do every year. We did last year, alhamdulillah. And we are going to do the same way today as well, inshallah ta'ala. I will begin with the recitation of the Holy Quran, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحج أشهر معلومات فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج وما تفعلوا من خير يعلمه الله وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى واتقون يا أولي الألباب. ليس عليكم جناح أن تبتغوا فضلا من ربكم فإذا أفقتم من عرفات فاذكروا الله عند المشعر الحرام واذكروه كما هداكم وإن كنتم من قبله لمن الضالين. ثم أفيضوا من حيث أفاض الناس واستغفروا الله إن الله غفور رحيم. فإذا قضيتم مناسككم فاذكروا الله كذكركم آباءكم أو أشد ذكرا فمن الناس من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا وما له في الآخرة من خلاق ومنهم من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. أولئك لهم نصيب مما كسبوا والله سريع الحساب. واذكروا الله في أيام معدودات فمن تعجل في يومين فلا إثم عليه ومن تأخر فلا إثم عليه لمن اتقى واتقوا الله واعلموا أنكم إليه تحشرون. صدق الله العظيم. Inshallah, now I'll request Imam Ashir to come forward, inshallah, and to present the Hajj workshop, inshallah. Jazakallah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. الحمد لله. جزاكم الله خير Imam. جزاكم الله for that beautiful recitation. These are the ayats that inshallah ta'ala will get covered. The translation will get covered as we go through the workshop, inshallah, right? As we go through the steps of Hajj. Because they talk about the steps of Hajj and moving from one place to the other and all these kinds of things, inshallah ta'ala. Just really quickly, I'm going to be going through the ritual aspect of Hajj, and I'm going to try and before Maghrib time, inshallah ta'ala, to highlight some of the important spiritual aspects of these things. Right? The rituals are really important. Alhamdulillah, we have people here that will be going for Hajj. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to accept. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to facilitate the way for those that have yet to go, inshallah ta'ala. We'll definitely cover the rituals, but I want to point out some important things, spiritual-wise, inshallah ta'ala, when we go through the days of Hajj. Because oftentimes when you get caught up in the rituals, sometimes you can miss out on some of the more what do you call it, the aspects that are that the Prophet ﷺ highlighted. Inshallah, at the end I'll share with you some areas where people often tend to forget to make dua. They're highlighted by the Prophet ﷺ, but people more than often they forget to make dua. They're in a rush, they're hurried, they're tired, there's a lot going on, and so they don't necessarily slow down and take those things at time. But this is just a quick overview. I don't know if you guys can see this image, but this is just a picture of what Hajj looks like, right? So inshallah ta'ala, you're going to start in Mecca, you're going to don your ihram, go to Mina, you're going to leave from Mina on the 9th, go to Arafah, spending the day at Arafah, coming back to Muzdalifah, and then back to where Mina is for the Jamarat, and then back to Mecca for your tawaf. And the places like Arafah and Muzdalifah, these are actually outside of the Haram. These are outside of what is called the Haram, right? So there's a difference opinion whether or not Arafah is inside or not, but Mina is inside or not. Arafah and Muzdalifah, they're outside the Haram area. And so these are far away places. And the overwhelming majority of your Hajj is actually not in the masjid, right? It doesn't, the Masjid al-Haram, you go there for your tawaf and your sa'i. The majority of your actions of Hajj are done in Arafah and in Mina, when you are stoning for the 3 days that you're going to be there doing the stoning and the sacrificing and all that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting to just kind of have this overview, and it's also interesting to note that you take this back to the story of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, right? And you see kind of maybe the direction he was coming from. Going towards this place where he's going to meet his family that he has left there, and he has built the Kaaba, he's established his foundations. And Mina is the spot where you have the Ramyul Jamarat, where you throw the stones, right, at the pillars. In some cultures we say we're stoning the shaitan. You're not actually stoning the shaitan. You're stoning the pillars, or now they're not even pillars, they're walls, where it signifies that where this took place. And it's just interesting to kind of see that when you remember that you're walking in the footsteps of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? This is a ritual that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala initiated with the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. It goes way further back than Isa alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam. It goes all the way back to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? And so this has been a continuous ritual that has been practiced. And I think this is what my assessment, the longest running religious ritual established by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has been running continuously from the time of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam until our time today as well. Because even the Arabs pre-Islam were still making Hajj. They were still coming and they were still doing these rites of tawaf and sa'i between Safa and Marwa and all these kinds of things. And that was a big known thing from the Prophet Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. So that is just the kind of the overview of Hajj. There are three main types of Hajj: Tamattu, Qiran, Ifrad. The majority of people that go are going to be making tamattu, so we're going to be talking about Umrah and Hajj kind of separately. In the group that I'm going with, there are some people that are going for 10 days, so they're actually interested in making the Hajj Qiran, meaning they'll come one day before we go to Mina, so they want to stay in an ihram and do Qiran. And the Hajj Qiran is actually the Hajj of that the Prophet ﷺ himself made. The one he did was Qiran, and then he encouraged, and he said that if I come back next year, he encouraged the Sahaba to do Tamattu, which is why the scholars, they say Tamattu is the one that is more highly preferred. Tamattu means enjoyment, and that basically means you're going to be in Ihram, you're going to enter Ihram, and then you're going to enter another Ihram for your Hajj, right? So Ihram, Umrah, Ihram finished, Ihram, Hajj, and so you have two Ihrams in your visit and for the Hajj. Qiran is when you come back. So you make the intention, لَبَيْكَ اللَّهُمَّ عُمْرَةً وَحَجَّةً. Allah, I'm here for Umrah and Hajj in one Ihram. So you put on the Ihram, and in Qiran you have a few different rules. If you do the Tawaf for the Umrah, you can do the Sa'i for your Umrah, and then you don't have to repeat your Sa'i at the end. Or you can do Tawaf only and wait and do your Tawaf and Sa'i again at the end. So Hajj Qiran only has one Sa'i, right? That's the thing about Hajj Qiran. And then Ifrad is when you come only for Hajj. So basically, لَبَيْكَ اللَّهُمَّ حَجًّا, Allah, I'm here for Hajj, that's it. So no Umrah, you just put on the Ihram, you go to Mina, you start your Hajj. And the way I like to explain this, I know I did this last year as well. Is this showing up? How do I get rid of this? There we go. If I click on this. Okay. So the way I like to explain this is breaking down the actions of Hajj into categories, right? In the fuqaha, the ulama, our scholars, this is what they do. There are things that are called rukn, there are things that are called wajib, and then everything else is a sunnah, right? The thing that you're supposed to do or encouraged to do. Rukn, which means pillar, These are acts that are core and central to any act of ibadah. So if they are not done, even forgetfully, your entire ibadah is invalid, right? Your entire ibadah is invalid. So if you start to pray salah, for example, saying Allahu Akbar to start your salah is a rukn, right? So that means if you just stand up and say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen and start, you've never even started praying. Doesn't matter if you forgot or you did it intentionally, you haven't even started praying. So arkan, these rukn, these pillars, if they don't exist, they're not there, your hajj doesn't exist, right? But luckily there's only 4 of them for hajj, right? So they're very easy to remember, they're the main actions of hajj. Wajib are the majority of the other acts that you're supposed to do. The good thing about this is that you have to do them, they're mandatory, but if a mistake happens and something happens here, you can pay a penalty and fix it. You can fix a wajib. You cannot fix a rukn, you can fix a wajib, right? That is the important thing. Everything else is a sunnah. And sunnah here in this terminology, it means extra act that has extra reward, but it's not mandatory. Even if you intentionally leave off a sunnah action, your ibadah is considered 100% correct, meaning it's marked as being done. You're just missing out on extra reward, right? You're missing out on extra rewards. So the main thing we're going to focus on is the rukn and the wajib, the pillars, and the obligations that we have for hajj. So alhamdulillah, for hajj there's only 4. There's only 4 arkan. If you cannot miss any of these, if you do, your hajj doesn't exist. The first one is the declaration of ihram, and this is different than wearing the garments of ihram. Because culturally we have a lot of things we call, for the men, the women they don't really have this thing, but the men, we call the 2 towels that we wear, we call that ihram, right? We call that ihram. It's not putting on the towels, it's the declaration. Labbaik Allahumma umratan. Allah, I'm here for umrah. Labbaik Allahumma hajjan. Allah, I'm here for hajj. That is ihram. Because that puts you in a state of ihram, right? Yes, you're supposed to have the towels and all that stuff. If you don't, you can fix it. But you're supposed to declare your intention for umrah and hajj. That is your ihram. And then standing at the day of Arafah. So being in Arafah, you have to be there. Nowadays they have, they even have a hospital there. So if you are sick, they will transport you to the hospital so you can be in Arafah. You have to be in Arafah for even a little bit before Maghrib time, basically, right? Before actually it actually extends until Fajr time, right? And so, but it's better if you can be there before until Maghrib time. But inshallah, if you follow your group logistics, they will get you there exactly at the time they're supposed to get you there. Your tawaf al-ifada, it is also called tawaf al-ziyara. This is called the tawaf of hajj. At the very end, you do that tawaf. That is a rukn. And your sa'i between Safa and Marwa, it is a rukn, meaning it has to be done. These are the 4 things that absolutely have to be done. Even if they're not done forgetfully, your hajj doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And there's only 4 things. If you're going for hajj, you better go to Arafah. Right? You're going to hajj, you're going to make your tawaf and sa'i. So these are not things that are easily missed. The one thing that is easily missed is the declaration for ihram. Sometimes people fall asleep during the ride from Medina to Makkah, right? Or Jeddah to Makkah. And so the good thing is, even if you miss the miqat, you can still make the niyyah, you can still make the intention before you get to Makkah. You'll have a penalty to pay because saying it before the miqat is a wajib. Saying labbaik Allahumma umrah is a rukn. You have to say the words, you have to make the intention, but saying them before the miqat is a wajib. So that means if you say it after the miqat, you can still fix the mistake. You still have hajj, you can still fix your mistake. And this is the point where we try to tell people, if you're on the train from Medina to Makkah or coming from the train to Jeddah, it's easy to fall asleep. People, they fall asleep because they're tired from traveling or all this stuff. They fall asleep, and we've seen this so many times. So wake up the people next to you, and the train, if you're going from Medina to Makkah, it comes pretty fast. And the miqat comes pretty fast because it's closer to Medina, Dhul Hulayfa. So it'll come within maybe 20 minutes or 25 minutes or 30 minutes or something. It's actually pretty fast. And when I went for Umrah in December, we had like half the people in our cabin. They didn't say it before the miqat because they were busy talking or this and that or whatever the case is. So you have to say it before the miqat, but if you don't, you can fix it by paying the penalty. So wajib, and again, these are the obligations of hajj. The way you fix these penalties is you sacrifice an animal, right? You sacrifice an animal as a penalty, or you pay the price for the animal to be sacrificed. So what are these obligatory actions? Declaring the ihram before the miqat. So saying that the niyyah for ihram is a rukn. If you never said it, you never had a hajj. But saying it before the miqat, that is what you're supposed to do. If you forgot or you missed it and you said it after the miqat, you can still fix the mistake. Staying in Arafah until Maghrib, without an excuse, you cannot leave Arafah before Maghrib time. right? And so if you do for some reason, if you're sick, they have to drag you out in emergency, or somebody told you something else, or accidentally you got mixed up and went somewhere, you can fix the problem, right? You can fix it by sacrificing, paying the sacrifice for an animal. Spending the night in Muzdalifah is a wajib, so that means you have to be in Muzdalifah in the night time. You pray Maghrib Isha until your Fajr time there. Stoning the pillars on the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th is optional. This is also a wajib. So if for some reason it wasn't done, you can pay the penalty to make it up. And then sacrificing the animal for if you're doing Hajj Tamattu and Hajj Qiran. You sacrifice an animal, Hajj Ifrad, you don't have to sacrifice an animal. But this is your sacrifice of Hajj. And then spending the 11th and 12th night in Mina, this is a wajib. Now, if you are traveling with a group that is following a Hanafi scholar, so there's different opinions, some of the madhahib. In the Hanafi school, staying the nights in Medina is not wajib. Staying the nights in Medina is a sunnah, according to them. That means if you decide to stay in your hotel in Mecca and not stay the night in Mina, you are not committing a violation for an obligation in the Hanafi school. But even their scholars will tell you, why would you do that? Why would you not follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and go and just for a few nights of comfort go to your hotel in Mecca? They still encourage you to go and not miss out on this important sunnah. And the reason they say this, they say you're spending all this money, you're coming here all the way for Hajj, you don't know if you're going to get to come back again. Why don't you want to take full advantage of your Hajj, right? So the majority of the scholars, they say this is wajib. You should spend the night in Mina. But the Hanafi say it's not wajib, so it depends on who you're following. I'd like to just share that because I know we have people that might follow different religious guides. And I'll say this again as a disclaimer, your responsibility with your group is to follow your religious guide, right? So don't, if I'm saying one thing and then you go and your guide says something else, you follow your guide, right? You don't say, oh, Imam Rashid from Masjid Jafar told me, no. Don't start that conversation. You follow your religious guide that has been appointed as your Amir. That is your only responsibility. That is your only responsibility, right? We do this for educational purposes. And then shaving or trimming the hair is a wajib. And then tawaf al-wada. Tawaf al-wada is the last tawaf you do before you're leaving Mecca, right? So that is also a wajib. And we'll, inshallah ta'ala, explain these things in some detail. These are the wajibat of Hajj. So arkan, pillars. If you don't do a pillar by accident, and you go through all the actions of Hajj, what is the consequence? Your Hajj is invalid. You have no Hajj, right? If you forgot one of these things or made a mistake in the wajibat, what is the consequence? Yeah, if you speak Urdu, they usually say dum, right? Everything dum, right? But not everything is a dum. But you will have to sacrifice an animal for missing a wajib, right? The violations of ihram are different. We'll cover those inshallah ta'ala. But violations of a wajib, you can fix it if it was done unintentionally. If you intentionally don't do any of these things, your Hajj is invalid. Because now you're playing around. So if you're intentionally saying, I don't want to stay in Arafah until Maghrib, right? I don't want to spend the night in Muzdalifah. Then you're not following the obligations that Allah told you to follow. You have no Hajj if you intentionally don't do these things, right? But unintentional and mistakes are done. Anything else besides this is a sunnah. Meaning it's an optional act, it's virtuous, it gives you extra deeds, you want to definitely focus on them, you want to make sure you get all of those done, but you don't want to sweat over these when things get tough. Meaning you don't want to delay your whole group because you didn't get to perform a sunnah and then everybody waits on this until you're going that. No, you want to make sure you follow your group logistics. We have millions and millions of people. One person's staying off track can cause a problem for the whole group. And when you're in Hajj, it's very easy for all those people to then make dua against you, right? So you don't want to make people upset because then they make dua against you and they might say something in the haram. And you don't want to risk any of it whatsoever. So if you can do any of the sunnahs, you do them, right? Or if you forgot and your mind goes elsewhere, you're not penalized. So saying that the niyyah is noble, is virtuous, you should say it from when you put on the ihram until you're done stoning the biggest pillar on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. That's the time from the talbiyah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik. But don't shame people if they're not saying it. If you forget or don't feel guilty and all this stuff, because this is a sunnah, it's extra, it's virtuous. Whenever you remember, say it. Whenever you're changing positions or going from one place to another, say it. And the scholars will tell you, say it at least 3 times at a time. So you say it 3 times at a time, but it's natural that you're engaged in other things. Staying in Mina on the 8th is actually a sunnah. So it's not a wajib, it's not a rukn. So if for some reason someone can't stay in Mina, that's actually fine. You're just supposed to get to Arafah. But again, it's the spiritual aspect of Mina is it helps you get in the mindset of Hajj for the rest of the 2 days. Because Arafah is going to be tough, Muzdalifah is going to be tough, it depends on your package and all this stuff, how much you have to walk, things are going to be tough. So So staying in a tent, not in a hotel, a little bit crowded, it's a good way to get used to the idea that you're going to be engaging in certain ways. Go ahead, yeah. And so again, engaging in dhikr, reading Quran, all your du'as that are made in different spots, right? These are sunnah. So if you forgot, you didn't do it, you didn't say Rabbana atina fid dunya between Rukn Yamani and Hajar Aswad, don't run back to Rukn Yamani to try. No. It's a sunnah. It's they say the time for it is gone and it's gone. That's fine as long as you do your main things, inshallah ta'ala. So with Umrah, same thing. It has arkan, wajibat. There are rukns for Umrah, wajibat for Umrah. The arkan of Umrah are three, very simple. Declare the ihram, tawaf, and sa'i. Right? If you're wondering where is the shaving of the head and all that stuff, that is the wajib. Right? That is the wajib. I mean, you can pay a penalty if you don't do that. And again, it's the same thing. You have to make your ihram before the miqat, and you have to do your shaving or trimming hair, and that's it. For those of you that are going for Hajj, your miqat is going to be in Makkah, right? So you're not, I don't want to confuse you guys because you declare the ihram before the miqat. That's if you're coming to Makkah on the day of Hajj, right? But if you're already in Makkah, you've done your Umrah, then you will do your ihram from your hotel room, from wherever you are in Makkah. You don't have to go back out to the miqat for that. So I want to clarify that in case that was confusing. But for your Umrah, when you're coming in, you're going to say Labbaik Allahumma Umrah, and then you're going to make sure you're already in your clothes and all this stuff. We'll talk about ihram. You're going to do your tawaf, you're going to do your sa'i, your Umrah is almost done, you shave your hair, and then your Umrah is done. Again, everything else is a sunnah. Before ihram, I'm going to talk about ihram in a little bit of detail because there's a lot of rules that kind of go into ihram. Before ihram, there's some advice for our sisters. If you can take medicine, and this is for the ihram of Hajj more particularly, but I mean, you have to start the process, I know, well in advance. If you can take medicine to delay menstruation, we highly, highly recommend that. Talk to your doctor, make sure it's safe and okay for you. This is really important for tawaf al-ifada, because tawaf al-ifada, so the majority of the fuqaha, they say that you have to have wudu for tawaf. And if you have to have wudu for tawaf, that means you cannot, the Prophet specifically told Aisha radiallahu anha to wait because she was on her menses. So he said, do not do tawaf, wait until you become pure and then do your tawaf. So we have a text from the Prophet ﷺ that you're not allowed to do tawaf for a menstruating woman. While you're menstruating, you have to wait till you're pure. The old opinion of the fuqaha before modern day Hajj logistics is that no problem, if she's on her menses, just wait until you're done and then do tawaf. But now you have, on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, I'm supposed to do tawaf. If I'm not pure on the 11th, 12th, 13th, and then we're flying out on the night of the 12th or flying out in the morning of the 13th, you can't stay. And so this created a problem for our ulama, that what do you do in this scenario that you have, so the things that they'll tell you to do now is to avoid the issue if you can. Avoid the issue, that is the first step. You can take those pills to stop your menstruation process, talk to your doctor, make sure it's safe, all that stuff. If you can avoid the issue, if your timing will come at that time, that is number one best. The other issue comes up that, well, if you can't, or if you have your menses during that time, what do you do? I'll just give you a short answer. You do the tawaf, and then you just go, because you have no other option. You really have no other option. There's 4 opinions of the scholars on this, and this is one that's widely accepted. Basically, it's you have no other option, but you can't not do your tawaf al-ifada. It is a rukn of Hajj. You cannot skip it, right? Otherwise, your Hajj is incomplete. So that's just some advice for our sisters. It's a sunnah to shave or remove any hair from your underarms, private parts. Do all of this before your ihram. You don't have to do it the day you're putting on the ihram, but it's just a sunnah to do all this stuff before. If you're trimming your nails, all of this stuff should be done because you cannot take away, you can't pull or cut your hair, you can't cut your nails, all this stuff in your ihram. And it's a sunnah to take a ghusl, a bath, before you put on your ihram. And you can perfume your body before your declaration of ihram, not your clothes. You cannot put any ether or musk or perfume on your clothes. You can put it on your body. The Prophet ﷺ put it on his body. Because you're going to be in the state of ihram for about 2.5 days. Right? 2.5 days. You're going to start to stink. It's what? What's the temperature right now in Makkah? 104 degrees, right? So you're going to be stinking and sweating. You have the opportunity, they do have stations for taking baths and stuff in Arafah, not in Muzdalifah. You don't want to do anything in Muzdalifah. But Arafah they have it, Mina they have it. In Mina you might take a bath, especially afterwards, this and that. But sometimes it's just easier to kind of push through and not worry about all that because there's hundreds of thousands of people around you doing the same thing. But again, if you perfume your body, the Prophet did it from his whole body, but not the clothes or the garments of ihram as well. So starting ihram. So your actual preparation for ihram. We know that the men, they wear 2 white sheets or any garment without, and as that specifically sleeves, pant legs, etc. Nowadays, you don't have to worry about it. You are given the ihram sheets by your Hajj provider. You don't have, there's no issue whatsoever. Before, there was the issue of what can you actually wear for ihram, and people often get confused for the men with you can't wear anything. What do they say? Stitched or sewn, right? And that does not mean if you look at your ihram, it has stitching on it. You look at your ihram, it has patterns and nice designs. And they're stitching on your ihram. They're stitching on your sandals, right? They're stitching on the hajj belt that you're wearing. There's maybe stitching on the watch strap. So it's not stitching or the fact that it's a mistranslation. What the Prophet ﷺ specifically said, he didn't say unsewn garments. He said don't wear shirts, don't wear pants, don't wear hooded thobes, don't cover your head, don't wear socks. That's what the Prophet ﷺ actually said. So you cannot wear anything that's made for men, that's made to fit parts of your body. So underwear, pants, shorts, shirts, socks, shoes, caps. You cannot wear anything that is designed to fit your body. Gloves fall into that as well. Again, it's very easy now. Men wear 2 white sheets. That's pretty much done with. Inshallah, if you haven't already done so, there's tons of YouTube videos on how to put on your ihram sheets. So make sure you watch that, practice that well in advance. Right? You will be very happy you practice that well in advance. Make sure it's tight, yank on it to make sure it doesn't fall, all those things, inshallah. For women, they can wear their regular clothes. The only restriction is a niqab, and a niqab is the covering of the face that's attached to the face, right? That's attached to the face, and that is not allowed for women. And also gloves. I think I might have mentioned it here somewhere that gloves are not allowed as well. After you put on your clothes for ihram, before you make your niyyah, you're getting ready to put on your clothes, and you do everything. You pray 2 rak'at salat or any salat. So if there's an obligatory salat that's being prayed, pray some salat that can be prayed, or you can pray 2 nafil salat, and then you can make your niyyah. You can make your niyyah anytime before the miqat. So if you want to, if you're going from Medina to Mecca, you don't have to make it from your hotel. You can make it on the train, right? So, but you can do it early. You can do it, at that time. If you don't want to risk being closer, you can do it early as well.
So you don't have to reach the miqat to declare.
No, you have to. Once you reach the miqat, it's done. So that's the thing. So before the miqat is when you make the intention. What they used to do was they used to go to the miqat and get ready there. And then they would make the niyyah and just move on. So that's how it used to be done. They would go to the mawaqit or the areas of the mawaqit, and then they would get ready for their ihram there, and then they would go. So that was the old way of doing things. The declaration is made after the miqat. Again, a sacrifice is owed because you missed a wajib. For Umrah, you'll make this before you enter Mecca, depending on where you're coming from. I'll just mention this quickly. If you're going to Mecca first and landing in Jeddah, then you have to get your clothes on before the plane lands in Jeddah. You have to be in ihram before the plane lands in Jeddah. Jeddah is not a miqat, but you will cross the miqat. You will cross the lines between the miqat when you're landing in Jeddah. So about 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes before you land, you need to make sure you already are in ihram. You have to have your clothes, so you're probably going to put them on for the men in the airport you're transitioning from, or whatever the case may be. That's if you're landing in Jeddah and going to Mecca, right? If you're going to Medina first, even if you land in Jeddah, you're fine. You land in Medina, you're fine. You're not intending to go into Mecca, you don't have to put on your ihram garments. Last year in our group, we had a gentleman who called me and said, I was told in Doha that since I'm landing in Jeddah, I have to wear my ihram. The poor guy put on his ihram. He landed in Jeddah, they went to Medina first, they were in Medina for like 4 days, and he's in his ihram. And the people are calling me like, can you talk to this guy? So some random guy told him at the airport. And then I had to have a whole conversation with our group. This is why I told you in the beginning. You follow your religious guide. Don't take advice from random people at the airport or even at Hajj. Everyone's going to want to give you advice. You follow your religious guide that has been appointed for you. If you're going to Medina first, you don't have to put your ihram on in Jeddah because you're not going to Mecca for Umrah. You're going to Medina. That's it. Right? So you're not doing that. But if you land you're going from Medina to Mecca, you're going to do it on the way. The miqat is Dhul Hulayfa. And for Hajj, you will declare your ihram from your hotel. This is Hajj Tamattu'. If you're doing Qiran, you will have already done it. These are the miqats. Don't worry about them. I don't even know why I put this in here. This is just historical things, right? So these Jeddah is not a miqat, but Jeddah falls in between Yalamlam and Al-Juhfa. And so basically, you want to get your ihram done before you land in Jeddah. The niyyah for Umrah, you're going to have your dua books. You guys should already have material that you can read and all that stuff. You're going to make sure you say your niyyah. This is just an example. There's multiple ways to do this. It's not a specified way. There are longer ones. Allahumma inni uridu al-hajj. Right? Oh Allah, I want hajj and I came. So you just have to verbalize your intention. That's it. There are multiple formats. You're going to find different things in the different books. The simplest one is following the pattern of the talbiyah. Labbaik Allahumma umratan. If you're doing tamattu', Allah, I'm here for umrah. And then later on, labbaik Allahumma hajjan. And if you're doing hajj and umrah together, the qiran, labbaik Allahumma umratan wa hajjan. Very simple. Like labbaik you already know, Allahumma you already know. You know what the word hajj means, you know what the word umrah means, right? So you can put those together and you can do it. And by the way, you don't have to say it in Arabic, you can say it in English. You can say it in your own language. You don't even have to say it in Arabic. That's not a condition. It's just, Allah, I'm here for hajj. I'm here for umrah. That's enough. Right? You just have to make the actual niyyah for ihram. So what is haram during ihram? What is haram during ihram? Shaving or trimming hair intentionally. Like every word here, inshallah, is very intentional. Okay? Shaving or trimming hair intentionally. You don't have to go to extremes. If you have an itch in your hair, you can scratch it. You can if you have a scratch itch it is bothering you, you can scratch it. And if a hair or two falls out, your ihram is not violated. You don't have to sacrifice 20 animals or anything, or a camel or anything like that. It's not that big of a deal. You are intentionally not allowed to remove your hair or your nails and all this kind of stuff, right? Intentionally. So don't be clipping your nails, trimming your beard, shaving your head, all this stuff like that is what getting a haircut. That is what is haram, right? It's haram and ihram. Unintentional falling off of hair when you're like you scratch your beard or something. This is not a penalty whatsoever. So again, gentle combing is permitted, but it's not advised. You avoid these things to avoid these issues. And if you, for some reason, you must remove hair, you pay the fidyah. So the Imam recited the ayah at the beginning, right? فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ بِهِ أَذًى مِنْ رَأْسِهِ فَفِدْيَةٌ مِنْ صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُكٍ. This was a specific case that happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, where someone had lice maybe or something in his hair, and he had to shave his head to cure it. And so the Prophet ﷺ told him to shave his head and pay the fidyah. So no shaving or trimming hair intentionally, no trimming nails intentionally, wearing a garment that is designed to fit the limbs of the body for men only, no shirts, pants, socks, again this is for men only, covering of the hair and the head, none of that for men only. Now women obviously they have to wear the hijab and all of these things. If your head gets covered while sleeping, you did not violate your ihram. So if you woke up and you had your thing on top of your head because you were under the covers, you did not violate your ihram, right? It's putting on a cap, putting on a turban. Those are the things. You can get under an umbrella. The Prophet ﷺ used to take shade as well. So like we said, seeking shade is permissible. Just be careful. I mean, you can't rest the umbrella on your head because that's considered like a covering, right? But if your hair gets covered with something else, you're fine. That's not what's meant here. Perfuming the body or clothes for men and women both. You can no longer add perfume to your body and clothes. If something perfumed accidentally gets on your garment. So when you're making your umrah, this is one thing important. Everybody gets very excited in their umrah and they try to rush to the Kaaba and touch the Kaaba and they haven't even started their tawaf yet. You know what they do to the Kaaba? What do they do to the Kaaba? Not just the official authorities. Every, Tom, Dick, and Harry, or what, Ahmad, something else, right? Oh, Tom, Dick, and Harry can be Muslims too, right? But everybody is going and adding their own perfume to the Kaaba. People are going, because they want to take part in that, right? So if you go and you smack yourself up against the Kaaba and your ihram clothes, now you've gotten perfume on your ihram clothes. So for your umrah, your hajj will be different. Your hajj will be out of ihram, inshallah, for your tawaf. But your umrah, don't worry about touching the Kaaba or the black stone at that time, because you might get perfume and you still have to do your tawaf and say, so you're going to have to change your clothes. So if anything, perfume gets on your garment, you can wash it off, wash it again, or you can go and change your clothes. You have to get rid of it. If you know it's on there and you don't get rid of it, then you pay the penalty. If you get rid of it, then you don't have to pay because it was an accident, right? It wasn't intentional. And anything that does not have added smells is allowed. So the most question I get is, can I use this? Can I use this? Can I use this? Can I use this? And every time, instead of saying yes or no, I say, is it fragrance free? They say yes. I was like, all right, that's your principle. Fragrance free, you can use it. And you can get fragrance free things from here as well. You don't even have to just get them from the pharmacy in Mecca or Medina. They have entire packages. Just when you land in Medina or Mecca, go to the pharmacy, ask them for the package. They'll hand you a nice little package. Get it from there. Unscented soap, shampoo, everything, lotion, all that stuff already prepared. You don't have to worry about it. Alhamdulillah, they have plenty of that in stock. Covering the foot for men. And what this means is the top. They say the majority of your top of your foot has to be uncovered, which is like your bone in the middle of your foot, right? So the sandal, like a hiking sandal, it's allowed. It can't cover your ankles, it can't cover like the majority of the top of your foot. You can wear a flip-flop, you can wear the sandals that has a strap here, and a strap around the heel. That's fine. Again, the main thing the Prophet said was do not wear socks or anything that is like a sock, which is a shoe, meaning your entire foot for the men cannot be covered, right? And that's by a shoe. So when you're sleeping, it's not the sheet that you're sleeping on, right? Because that's not a shoe, that's not a foot covering. That's a sheet, right? So you cannot intentionally put on anything that's a garment like a sock or or anything like that. So again, your ankle's open, the middle part of your foot's open, you're fine. They have multiple varieties of sandals. You can wear that. Again, covering the hands for men and women, meaning gloves. So form fitting, right? When you're praying and your hands is inside the ihram, that's not a violation of ihram, right? So actually putting on gloves is the violation of ihram. These are ones that you're not going to have to worry about, inshallah. But we mentioned them because they're mentioned in the Quran, of the Prophet. So hunting, don't kill anything. By the way, you're not allowed to pull out any plants or any kinds of things when you're in Mecca. Mecca has its own rules. So you can't go and start picking flowers and things like that. It doesn't really happen, right? But if you see plants or whatever in Mecca, leave them alone. Animals, leave them alone. Getting married, intimacy is a violation of ihram. Intimacy and marital relations is a major violation of ihram. There's a major penalty. The penalty for that is the sacrifice of a camel, and repeating your hajj or something like that. That's a major thing. But again, these are things that most people don't have to worry about, alhamdulillah, during their ihram. Some common questions that come up: ihram belts, they're perfectly fine. Watches, rings, they're allowed. Glasses, obviously, straps for glasses. Sandals, are they allowed for tawaf? Can you wear like sandals? Most people ask this question because tawaf is done inside the masjid, right? So my advice is, keep a pair of sandals or flip-flops, maybe buy them in Mecca or something, whatever, that you're only going to use inside the haram, right? Because the major issue is, if you're walking in your sandals outside the Masjid al-Haram, those of you that have been, those streets are not clean. You have millions and millions of people throwing trash, all this. You have no idea what you're walking through, and it's not permissible to drag that stuff inside the masjid, right? So the issue is not, can you wear sandals when you're doing tawaf and sa'i? The Prophet ﷺ wore sandals when he did tawaf and sa'i. The Prophet ﷺ did tawaf on a camel, right? And that's why we have the carts and wheelchairs and all this stuff is allowed, because at that time there was no carpets, it was all dirt and rocks and things like that. So you can, but in today's time, because it's a masjid and people pray there, you cannot be the one dragging impurities inside the masjid. If you can't control everybody else, but you shouldn't be doing it yourself. So very easy, buy a pair of simple flip-flops that you can use only for the masjid, switch them out before you enter the masjid, put them on, because when you're doing tawaf and sa'i, it's a long walk and it will hurt your feet. And so in ihram, for umrah, you can, for the men, the women have no issues, you can wear a clean pair of shoes inside the masjid, right? But for the men, your ihram for umrah, your umrah, you'll be in ihram, so you can't cover your foot. So, and it's tough. If you're not used to walking, it's about 3 miles. Tawaf and sa'i is about 3 miles. And if you're not used to walking barefoot on hard tile for 3 miles, your feet are going to hurt. And you still have hajj to do, right? You still have maybe extra tawaf you want to do. So it's a good idea to maybe wear sandals, but keep them purely for the masjid, and that's it, right? So don't use them anywhere else. Again, socks are allowed for women, not for men in ihram. Your tawaf for hajj won't be in ihram. And then for tawaf and sa'i and hajj, again, you'll be out of your ihram. Medical face masks, this comes up because people are worried about getting sick. So covering your face with anything that touches your face is a violation of ihram, right? It is a violation of ihram. And so there's debate on the issue, but the simple rule is, if you have to violate one of the conditions of ihram for a valid reason, then you will pay the penalty. You will pay the penalty. You're allowed to do it. You're not sinful because you have a valid reason, but you have to pay the penalty. And this is from when the man came to the Prophet ﷺ, which is quoted in the Quran, and he said, I need to shave my head because I have this problem in my hair. And the Prophet said, shave it and then give fidya, right? Fidya to bin siyamin or sadaqatin or nusuk. So he had a need, he had a reason to do it, and he did it, but he violated the condition of ihram, so he has to pay the penalty. So for medical face masks, if you really feel like I'm in danger of getting sick, then and you take it upon yourself to wear it, just make sure you pay the fidya, which is an option of one of the 3 things. And this is the penalty for the rules of ihram. Breaking the rules, the wajibat of hajj and umrah, it's the sacrifice of an animal, but the penalty for violating the rules of ihram, you have an option from 3 things. An option from 3 things. And I've kind of broken it down. So number 1, if you violated a rule of ihram without a need or without a valid reason, then you are sinful and you owe the fidya. There's 2 things. Meaning you committed a sin, you didn't have a reason to do it, and so you are sinful, meaning you're responsible for, and then this is bad because you're sinning while in ihram. you're there for forgiveness, but you're sinning while in ihram. So this is bad, right? So you're sinful, and you have to pay the fidya. The fidya is an option of any of the three, not in this order. You can pick any one of the three. Either sacrifice an animal, fast 3 days. You can do this any day. You can after you return, or feed 6 poor people. But if you do this, it has to be in Mecca. If you feed the 6 poor people, it has to be in Mecca. Nowadays, it's super easy. Walk into any restaurant, they have all it done. I want to pay for 6 meals for poor people. They'll take care of it. They know this is something that's going to happen. So you can talk to your guides. They can guide you to the right place, or just literally walk into a restaurant and say, I have to pay fidya, and I need to pay for 6 poor people to eat their meals. And if they see poor people walk in, they won't charge them for their meals. You'll cover their meals. So you can cover it this way: fast 3 days when you any days after Hajj, and or sacrifice an animal, and that can be sacrifice an animal should also be in Mecca. Sacrificing the animal should also, you have to pay for that to be distributed in Mecca. If you had to break a rule of ihram for a valid reason, then you're not sinful. That's the difference. You're not sinful, but you pay the fidya as you just explained. You have to do one of these 3 things. If you broke a rule of ihram out of forgetfulness, there is no penalty as long as the violation is corrected immediately. There is difference of opinion on this issue. Some of the scholars said, you should pay a penalty, but we take this rule from what the Prophet ﷺ specifically said about the person in Ramadan who eats or drinks while they're fasting. What did he say about that person? Huh? Allah has fed you. Did your fast break if you ate or drink forgetfully in Ramadan? No. And that's by agreement, consensus, because there's a direct hadith on the issue. So the one thing you're not supposed to do in Ramadan is eat or drink. And the very action of eating or drinking forgetfully still does not invalidate your fast, with the condition that it was done forgetfully, not intentionally. So there's no penalty, right? We already have that standard that is set. So if you really were not aware that, oh my God, I was not supposed to do it. So this will happen. I guarantee you this will happen, right? This happens to about 90% of the people. You put on your ihram, you're excited, you said your niyyah, you're saying your talbiyah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, then you get to your hotel in Mecca, you're excited, eat a meal and this and that. You go to the bathroom, you wash up, you wash your hands, and what do? You use the soap in the hotel. And the hotel doesn't put scent-free soaps in the hotel. They have the standard soap that they use. And then, or you went to the bathroom of the train after you declared your ihram, and then you wash your hands with soap. And then you're like, oh, this is scented soap, what do I do? If you did not, if it was completely unintentional, there is no penalty. No penalty whatsoever. Move on. You didn't intentionally go and wash your hands with anything that was soap. It was completely done out of forgetfulness. These things are almost, for over 90% of the people, they're going to make some mistake in the ihram. They're going to make some kind of mistake unintentionally, because there's so many things now that you're all of a sudden not supposed to do. So maybe you're in the hotel and the brothers, you slip on that slipper that they leave for you in the hotel to go to the bathroom. You've covered your foot. He's like, oh, I gotta take you might do these things because you're not used to it. What you're used to doing is, normally you go to the hotel room, this and that, blah, 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 whatever. Right? You come out of the shower, you wrap the towel, I don't know if the men do it, but you wrap the women it's not an issue, but you wrap the towel around your head for some reason. You're not supposed to cover your head with anything, directed. So you're gonna make mistakes. If it's unintentional, you have no penalty. No penalty, because you didn't mean to do it. You have to fix it immediately. Right? So if you're using the soap, you can't say, I'm not supposed to use the soap, and then you keep using the soap. No, you wash it off, and then whatever. By the way, I bought these things, you get them on Amazon. It's a tin. They have these soap sheets. They're little thin sheets of soap. They'll be very handy in Mina, in Arafah, and in Muzdalifah. They're going to come very handy, and you can buy them fragrance-free. They come fragrance-free. You just grab a sheet, and you wash your hands, and the sheet turns into soap and dissolves. Right, so it's a natural thing. So that's what I recommend for Mina, Arafah, Muzdalifah, is you take while you're in your ihram to take those sheets. You'll have soap, it's fragrance free, and all of that, inshallah. Separate compensation for hunting. None of you are going to be hunting, inshallah, during ihram. There's nothing to hunt, anyways, nowadays. And then for marital relations, it's the sacrifice of a camel, and you have to do something else about it. You have to fix your hajj. You have to come back. I wouldn't say you have to do another hajj, or you have to continue with your hajj, and then basically try to do another one as well for the next time, inshallah. Okay. Any questions about ihram? Then we'll go to the umrah, then we'll go to the steps of hajj, inshallah. Any questions about ihram?
It's just,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a quick question. If you take a shower after ihram,
Yeah.
Are you allowed to dry your hair, or would that consider covering your
Yeah,
hair?
you're allowed to dry your hair. Yeah, you're allowed to dry your hair. But I got because men don't do that. Women do that where they wrap their head.
Right.
So I said it for the men. If any of the men do it, then don't do it, right? Don't wrap your head, but you can dry your hair.
For missed wajibat, is it one dam per missed wajibat or just one dam for all? your
One dam for each wajibat. Yeah, because they're different mistakes. Yeah. So one animal for each wajib that was unintentionally missed.
And that has to be done in Makkah itself.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
outside.
The sacrifices, because they're I think the general rule for those sacrifices that they have to be distributed for the poor in Mecca.
Is it within time frame or anything, or it's just like, because it's like you call
That's a
someone?
good question. Probably not a time frame, as I haven't read that there's a time frame, but it's probably better to do it before you leave, and you just coordinate with your guides, and they have official like even in Saudi they probably have like stations we can go and because they've taken complete control of slaughter for the most part. They have private slaughterhouses as well that maybe your guides might know somebody that can do it, but for the most part you have to probably go through some official channel. But you can talk to your guides about doing that.
Or you can fast when you come back.
So if you miss any wajib, then it's the only option you have is slaughtering an animal. But if it's a violation of ihram, then you have an option. You can for ihram violations, it's an option of 3: slaughter, fast 3 days, or feed 6 poor people of Makkah. So only for ihram. For the wajibat, it's the animal. Any questions on? Let me check. Okay. Make sure nobody's there. Okay.
And then
Yeah.
the nafil before miqat, is it okay to pray it in the hotel before because
Yeah, so the nafil you can pray anywhere. You can pray in the masjid. I mean, if you're, the advice is to, if you're in Medina, pray in Masjid Nabawi, right? Again, you don't have to technically, but man, you're gonna miss out on a huge reward. 2 extra salat, or 2 extra rakat in Masjid Nabawi, inshallah. All right, let's go to the steps of Umrah and Hajj real quick. We have what time is Maghrib? 8:30. 8:30, inshallah. We'll get to the 8:30. So Umrah is easy. Again, you already talked about it. You're going to enter into the ihram from the miqat. You're going to make your tawaf. For the men, you expose your right shoulder. It's called ittiba. And then basically just take your ihram from under your right armpit, throw it over your left shoulder. This is a sunnah. We didn't mention this in the arkan. We didn't mention this in the wajibat. If you forgot to do it, don't worry about it. Right? Your tawaf is not going to be violated. But it's a sunnah. It's an extra thing that you can, that you're supposed to do, that you should do, not supposed to do. And ramal in the first 3 rounds, these are for men only. And that basically means, I can just demonstrate it. That basically means you're kind of like jogging like this in place, right? When you're in the mataf, you're not going to be able to run anywhere, even in the first floor, because for Hajj time, the crowds are just so much, you're not going anywhere. So it's a sunnah anyways, and it's not like, so again, if you forgot, and you will forget. So what happens is people, they see the Kaaba, they enter a state of awe, they start making dua, they start making their tawaf, because they're like, you're just taken aback by the beauty of the Kaaba. And then that's happened in my first Hajj. I forgot to do the ittiba. I did it in like the middle of the first round, and then by the second I was like, I was supposed to run, in the first. But these are sunnahs, so if you miss them, it's not a big deal. But if you can remember to do them, it's good. And then you do your tawaf. How many rounds? 7 rounds. I think I have the whole thing with tawaf. Right, I'll talk about tawaf in a second. And so the ittiba and the ramal are only done for your first tawaf, your tawaf al-qudum or your tawaf al-umrah. You don't have to do it. You're going to be out of your ihram for your tawaf of hajj, right? So that's not a thing you can do anyways. So it's only for your initial tawaf, and it's only for tawaf, not for anything else. So sometimes you see people walking around with their shoulders uncovered. It's not haram for men to uncover their shoulder, but it's still considered inappropriate. They should cover their shoulders outside of that situation. And then you're going to do sa'i between Safa and Marwa. And I'll talk about the tawaf and sa'i in detail, inshallah. But just remember, Safa to Marwa is 1. Marwa to Safa is 2. Do not do another tawaf, counting as 1. The bad part is when you end at Marwa, depending on where you have to go next, you probably have to walk all the way back to Safa to get out. So that's one thing that I have to do every single time. And then so tawaf, sa'i, and then shave or trim your hair. The men, they shave or trim it all the way around. Shaving is better. Trimming is permissible. And what trimming means for men, is that you shorten it enough from all sides so that someone that has seen you before you shorten your hair can tell you shorten your hair. Right? Not just a little bit of tick, 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 tick. No, you have to shorten it enough to where someone can say, oh, you got a haircut. Just like when you go and get a haircut, someone's like, oh, you got a haircut, right? So for men, this is the thing. Sometimes they look exactly the same, but they say, no, we have a trim. So it has to be a visible difference, right? So if you don't want to shave all the way, then you still have to shorten enough to where people can tell you shortened your hair, right? That it can be said you actually shortened your hair. And for women, you gather your hair from all sides, and then about the fingertip length. And again, you don't have to measure with a tape measure or anything, just roughly that end, and you cut it off. If you have, I've learned so many things about women's issues being a guy for Hajj. If you have layers, this is not for you guys, don't worry about it. If you have layers, you don't have to cut from every single layer, right? You just grab all your hair, whatever sticks out, you cut from there, that is it, right? And then we had a lot of people that were freaking out because they thought, no, somebody said I had to, again, some random person told them, you have to clip every single layer. And I don't know how you guys even find the layers in your head, but you just grab your hair from all around, whatever sticks out, one length of one fingertip, and that is enough. There's no precise measurement for any of these things. Quickly, tawaf, you have to have wudu. It's wajib, right? There's some difference of opinion. It's a minority opinion, but play it safe with your wudu, with your tawaf, and be in a state of wudu for your tawaf. You start at Hajj al-Aswad. Now there's a green light. You go to that green light. You say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. You raise your hands. All of these are sunnah. So even if you forgot to do it, your tawaf is accepted. It's fine, right? But you go and you say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. You raise your hands. And then you start your counting of your tawaf. When you're making tawaf, make dua as much as you possibly can. Tawaf is you're in a state of ibadah. This is a worship that you can only do in Mecca. When you leave, you will not get access to this again until the next time Allah blesses you to be able to come back. And you don't know when that's going to be. So tawaf is very, very special. It is not a time to call your relatives and say, look, I'm doing tawaf. Right, or live stream that, look at that. Even if you're done with your tawaf, right? Even if you're done with your tawaf, there are things that are just spiritually inappropriate. And it's not that it's haram, but it's just not the appropriate time. You're standing before Allah, engaged in an ibadah, and you're not focused on the ibadah. And the khutbah today we mentioned, لا يقبل الله تعالى دعاء من قلب غافل لله. Allah does not accept a dua from a heart that is not paying attention. So if you're like, you're not paying attention to what you're doing. So your dua would even be listened to by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He's looking at you and what you're doing when you're making dua. So this is not a time, right? You can go later on to the top and take all the pictures you want, all this stuff, but it is highly, I have not talked or spoken or with any scholar, religious, pious, righteous person that has said, it's okay. It's not haram, but no one's going to tell you, yeah, go ahead and do this, right? It is not the time. Tawaf is for dua. Ask Allah for the things that you want from the bottom of your heart. Once it's done, okay? So you're going to make the tawaf all the way around. When you get to Rukn Yamani, which is before the green light, before Hajj al-Aswad, recommended dua, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Repeat it as many times as you can between those two places. If you're close enough to the Kaaba, again, they said the Prophet would, touch Rukn Yamani, right? And again, at that time, no rush. At that time, no perfume on the Kaaba, right? So he would touch Rukn Yamani, right? And again, but I don't recommend you trying to get even closer to the Kaaba is going to be, you're probably going to violate your ihram just trying to do that. So just make your tawaf, focus on your ibadah, and get to the end of your tawaf. Every time you pass Hajj al-Aswad, you can say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, or Allahu Akbar, raise your hands, not raise your hands, all of that is fine. At the end of your 7th round, you don't do it again. Some people might say you do it because they'll say every time you pass by you do it, but you don't, you're done with your tawaf. So you do it, it's called an istinab or whatever, saying Allahu Akbar, you do it at the beginning of the round. So when you're done, you don't do it again, right? You finish with your 7th, then you go, you drink zamzam, you pray 2 rak'at of the tawaf. In some schools, it is wajib. So the Hanafi school, you have to pray the 2 rak'at. You cannot skip them, right? In the other schools, it's a sunnah. So if you, for some reason you didn't do it, you're fine. I follow the one that is sunnah. But again, there's no reason to skip it. There's no reason to not do it. You pray 2 rak'at of tawaf. Now again, we know you pray behind what? Yeah, do not kill yourself. I challenge you to even find Maqam Ibrahim in that crowd, right? You're gonna be where is, even if you know where it is, you won't be able to see it, right? And that is the original method. You go in line with the Maqam Ibrahim, the Kaaba, and you pray somewhere there. That is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. It's a sunnah for a good reason. It's not an obligation. You can pray anywhere in the masjid, right? And some of them say anywhere in Mecca, actually. Anywhere in Mecca. But you can pray anywhere in the masjid. The reason they say anywhere in Mecca is because the way things were before, totally different. They would come, they would do tawaf, and then they would even start to. Umar ibn Khattab did this where he prayed the 2 rakat somewhere else of the tawaf, right? But that's, again, you don't have to worry about that. But you pray your 2 rakat. It's a sunnah to drink zamzam. So again, you can find the coolers, or the best option is to fill it up before and bring it with you. But drinking zamzam, lots of zamzam after tawaf is a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Even, don't do this now, but even like pouring it on your head, and the masjid used to be sand and rocks, so it was not dangerous to do that at that time. You pouring water on tile, someone's going to slip and fall and hurt themselves, right? So do not do that anymore, right? So you drink to your fill of zamzam, and then you go on to your sa'i. Wudu is not a requirement for sa'i by consensus. You do not have to have wudu for your sa'i. When you reach Safa, it is a sunnah to recite the ayah, in the Safa wal Marwa min sha'airillah, or the whole ayah, or just that part of the ayah. أبدأ بما بدأ الله به. I begin with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began with. We said Safa first, so I begin with Safa. And there's another dua, I'll mention that at the end. But when you, the sa'i of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is one of those places where people forget to make dua. They just go and they start from Safa, and they go Safa, Marwa, Safa, Marwa, Safa, Marwa. You can do that, your sa'i is fine. People are usually tired after tawaf, they want to get it over with. But spiritually speaking, try to get out of that state where you're like, I just want to get this over with. That's going to be a very natural thing that's going to happen in your Umrah. It's going to be a very natural thing that's going to happen at Arafah. It's going to be a very natural thing at Muzdalifah. When you're going to stone even if you're like, I just want to get this over with. I just want to get this over with. Because there's so much going on. You're sweating, you're hot. There's a lot of people. Some of them are going to be like, this and that. This will be pushing, shoving, maybe it's crowded, whatever the case may be. But your spiritual task at that time is to try and really slow yourself down. It really doesn't matter how long it takes. Where are you going? Where are you going to go? Unless you have a flight to catch within the next hour, where are you going to go? You're not going anywhere. You're there, right? And the longer you're there, the better. So why not savor these moments, right? The Prophet ﷺ would go on Safa, would stand, would recite the dua, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. La ilaha illallah wahda anjaza wa'da wa nasara 'abda wa hazama al-ahzaba wahda. He would recite his dua once, and then he would make his own dua. He's still standing at Safa. And then he would repeat this dua, and then he would make his own dua facing the Qibla at Safa. And then he would repeat this dua, and then he would start the round to Marwa. So this is what the Prophet did. It's not required, but this is how much time he's spending before he goes. And when he goes to Marwa, he does the same thing. Faces the Qibla, makes his dua, makes his own dua. The dhikr, the dua. The dhikr, the dua. So the sa'i of the Prophet is not about, I gotta get this over with. This is an opportunity for dua at Safa. This is an opportunity after getting tired. This is an opportunity for dua at Marwa. And your sa'i will be longer. But again, where are you going to go? What else do you have to do? You're there for Umrah, you're there for Hajj. So what's the problem if it takes you even 2 hours? What's the problem? Right? Just walk. Enjoy and do the best way that you possibly can. You never know when you're going to get the chance to do it again. This is the dua again that we mentioned just now. And again, when you're doing the rounds of between Safa and Marwa, make your own dua, any dua that you want. And for the men, again, when you hit the green lights, that's where Hajar alayhi salam did the running. And it was Hajar alayhi salam that did the running, and the Prophet said, women don't have to do it, the men should do it. It is a sunnah, not required. You're not going to be penalized if you don't do it. Don't run somebody over. You're going to see people getting really excited. You're going to have to get out of the way for some people. Some of our runners, mashallah, they really take this seriously, right? And it is something that you're supposed to go at a fast pace, right? But not at the expense of hurting somebody. You're not allowed to hurt people in Hajj. So, you don't be selfish in any of these moments either, right? Look out for other people and make sure they're being taken care of. So again, Safa to Marwa 1, Marwa to Safa 2, and then you make these 7 rounds and you're done. And this is the tawaf you will do in your Hajj, the same sa'i you will do in your Hajj, but you just won't be in ihram. That's it. The same things for your tawaf and sa'i of Hajj. And the trimming the hair, again, we mentioned this already, for what you have to do. And your umrah is done. You can get out of your ihram. Meaning once you shave and trim your hair, you are done. You are no longer in a state of ihram. Shower, perfume, change your clothes, everything is permissible for you. And if you're doing tamattu', then you're going to do the same thing to get into ihram that you did before on the 8th of Hijjah, which is when you go for Mina. Any questions about that? We have to run through the steps of Hajj.
So on the shaving of head, can we do it oneself, like our shaving, like if you're trimming your hair, or you have to first come out of ihram or have somebody else do it and then you can do it for your mahram.
Oh no, you can do it for anything.
Yeah, but you can do it yourself. Too.
Yeah, you can do it yourself. You can do it even if you're because this is your ihram, that's somebody else's ihram. So you can cut somebody else's hair. They can cut your hair. That's fine. You can do that. Nowadays you can even buy those little electric shavers. If you're okay with shaving your whole head, just do it yourself sometimes because you might have to wait in line. And again, you don't know if they're I don't know safety wise. I don't know how clean those razors are. So it's a good idea sometimes just take your own razor and then your own razor and shave your head, inshallah. Any other? Yeah.
What's a good way to count your circuits?
If you find one, let me know. So I mean, people. I mean, if you're using your phone for that purpose, it
No,
makes sense.
There is a 7-beat tasbih that is.
There is a 7-beat tasbih. You might get it as part of your group. So I got one.
Yeah.
So it's like a 7-beat tasbih you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can. What I literally did when I went for Umrah was after I'd done one, I opened the notes app. 1, 2, 3, whatever you can do. It's not easy. That's a challenge, right? Whatever kind of works for you.
And they recommend.
One thing that worked is you have 7 different du'as, and every round you make one du'a.
That's good. That's yeah. People come up with their own stuff, so that's great. One dua for each round. That's good. But what if you forget and do like the same dua again? So it'll work for some people, and you're only gonna have to figure a way out to keep track. Which is why going in a group is good. Having a few people with you, so then you have some consensus. No, this is the 4th one. This is the 3rd one, or this and that. The 7-beat tasbih is really good. It even has like a little key ring at the end. You can just slip on your finger, and you can kind of keep count. Whatever works. Whatever works. Any other questions on the Umrah, the Tawaf, Sa'i?
So they say that the Umrah is trim your hair but not shave it because you're gonna shave it for Hajj.
If you're doing tamattu, yeah, then trim it because you need something on your head. In my case, I always get this. I'm just bald as it is. So they even what are you gonna do? What are you supposed to do if you're bald? You just run a razor over your head, right? You run a razor over your head. You have to do something. You have to do something. But you can still shave because even a little bit will grow, and then you can shave that part off as well. But it's up to you. You can trim for Umrah, shave for Hajj, trim for both, shave for both. That's entirely up to you. Any other questions? We're running close to Maghrib, so I want to get through this, inshallah, quick. Alright. I'm going to try and go through this really quick because there's a lot of days. But basically, the Mina is a sunnah. You don't have to really do anything. There's the main thing that you do in Mina, which everybody's pretty much agreed upon, is you pray your prayers in their appointed time. Even if you're a traveler, you pray your prayers in Mina in their appointed times. Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib. Actually, you're going to get there probably later, right? So, but you have to pray your Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, and Fajr in Mina, right? In Mina. If you're a traveler, you qualify as a traveler, you will shorten your 4 rak'at prayers to 2 prayers. Sorry, to 2 rak'at. That's it. So Dhuhr, Asr, and Isha will be 2 rak'at. But you pray them in their appointed times. The Prophet specifically in Mina did it differently than he did in Arafah and Muzdalifah. Okay, so that's one thing important about Mina. And in Mina, you're resting up for your next day, right? So just talk to people, experience, and get some good things. Don't overeat in Mina because the next day you have to go to Arafah, and then you don't want to spend half your time using the bathroom figuring out what foods work for you, what don't work for you. They'll have buffets, they'll have this. Eat modestly. Eat modestly. Again, in the Sunnah of the Prophet just eat what you need. Eat what you need. Don't overindulge. You are in a holy place. Spend that time with Quran, Dua. Do not argue with people about what's going to happen the next day and how are you doing and how am I doing and who is correct and who is incorrect. You're not allowed to argue as at Hajj. That is one of your conditions. وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. Allah in the Quran says it. You're not allowed to argue at Hajj. Don't argue with people. If they argue with you, say go talk to the Shaykh or go talk to whatever, this and that. I don't know anything. Just say, I don't know anything. Go talk to this or that person. Do not argue with anyone at Hajj. People, this is one of the easiest things they get caught in Mina, right before they go to Arafah. And then they argue in Arafah about, what are they supposed to do? Because there's different opinion about how you do some things in Arafah. You are not allowed by Allah in the Quran to argue with people and to fight with people while you're in state, while you're at Hajj, period. So do not engage in any of that whatsoever. And again, you're going to be spending the night in Mina. Yes, one important tip, and I'm sure your guides will tell you, do not leave your tent. Don't try to go to Masjid al-Khayf. I say this, unless you know the area super, super well, you will get lost. Everything looks exactly the same in Mina. Every person looks exactly the same in Mina. And now you're going to have your Wisr card, and if you don't have your Wisr card with you, they'll probably just kick you out of the country. right? That's a very serious. They're like locking people up if they can't prove they're supposed to be there. Do not leave your tent. You have no reason to. You're already where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do. You have, unless you're getting food from a restaurant or something close by or whatever, like that's really, do not go anywhere. Because you risking getting lost is you risking your next day at Arafah, which is your main rukn for Hajj. You can't miss Arafah whatsoever. So you're going to create a problem for your entire Hajj group if you go exploring out in Mina. All of the days that you're basically there. Maybe at the end you're going to go out and explore. You're done with your next, that's fine. So Arafah, you're going to get there inshallah ta'ala. Most of you probably get there before the time you actually have to be there, which is the zawal, which is the time for duha. But you'll get there and then you don't, the wukuf, the Arafah time doesn't start until the dhuhr. Basically you pray your dhuhr asr and then your wukuf starts. So prior to that time, it's not the actual special time. So you can kind of rest, take it easy, have something, shower or clean up, whatever. You can prepare all you want until the time of dhuhr actually comes in. But the purpose of Arafah is to spend the entire day making dua. That is it. That is what you're there for. Not to nap, not to gossip, not to talk to people, not to do a live stream, not to go hunting for Jabal Rahmah, finding out that it's maybe 2 hours away and then getting lost on your way back and all. You are already where you're supposed to be. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Stay there so you don't miss any other aspect of your Hajj. If you want to go outside your tent, find a place to stand. All of that is fine, but do not go exploring. You're going to cause problems for yourself. Now, in Arafah, you pray Dhuhr Asr combined and shortened if you're a traveler. Most of you guys will be travelers if you go from America. And that's it, right? Now, in another opinion, you pray Dhuhr and Asr full in their times. And that's usually you pray Dhuhr and Asr in their times, even for travelers. And then the third opinion, the people that are there for a longer time, from the Southeast Asian countries, are there for like 40 days. So in their opinion, they're not considered travelers anymore, so they pray 4 rak'at, Dhuhr, Asr, and everything in their appointed times, right? Again, I'm telling you one thing, which is the way that I've learned and taught, that you pray Dhuhr, Asr shortened and together, which is how the Prophet ﷺ did it. There's no difference of opinion about that. You pray Dhuhr, Asr shortened together, and then that's it. That's the only prayers you pray in Arafah. Yeah.
Where do you pray? Is it in your tent or you go?
Yeah, in your tent. In your tent, or they'll make space for you guys somewhere. In your tent, or they'll definitely make space for you guys somewhere. They'll take care of all those logistics of where you're going to pray and all that stuff. But yeah, don't go looking for Masjid Jafar and try to find all these. This is not the time to sightsee, basically. Right? Hajj, when you're in your haram, this is not the time to go sightsee. Right? Do your ziyarat or whatever later or earlier. But again, whatever your religious guide tells you to do, you follow. Your responsibility when you're at Hajj under the leadership of an Amir and of your group leader is to follow that group leader. I made Hajj in 2007. I'm a Hanbali, I made Hajj with Hanafis. I did everything the way they were doing it because that is my responsibility when I am with the group leader. I am not the group leader. I am not the one deciding this is how we know. So this is a condition. The Prophet that taught us that when you go and you have an Amir, you follow your Amir. That is it. That's it. So your responsibility, if they do something different, your group leads, you follow them. Otherwise, you're going to be creating issues for everybody, inshallah ta'ala. And then the next step is basically after Maghrib. After Maghrib, you're going to head off to Muzdalifah. And in Muzdalifah, all you're supposed to do is rest, right? Rest. You don't have to collect your rocks from Muzdalifah. You can get them from Mina, you can get them from Arafah, you can get them from Muzdalifah. More than, people that say you have to get your rocks from Muzdalifah, they don't have enough rocks in Muzdalifah. They're probably introducing rocks in Muzdalifah, right? You can get your rocks from America. You can. You need rocks. You need pebbles. Okay. You want to take American rocks to throw at the shaitan? You can do that. But again, it's easier just to go there and get the rocks from Mina, Arafat, or Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah is where they'll put them out there for you to collect, right? You don't be thinking you're actually getting natural rocks from Muzdalifah. But you're going to collect the number of rocks you need. 7 for the 10th of the Hijjah, 21 for the 11th, 21 for the 12th. That's 49. Most people do not stay for the 13th. If you are taking the 13th, you need 70. Take more extra just in case somebody else loses some. You can help somebody out. So it's 49. Don't take exactly 49. Take like 60, 70 or whatever. Just grab a bunch of rocks, throw them in your pouch, and then take them with you. And then in the morning of Muzdalifah, the Fajr of Muzdalifah, the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed Fajr and then he stood making dua until it got bright. They call it Isfar. So not until sunrise, but until it got bright. So he stood and he made dua in Muzdalifah. Wherever you are in Muzdalifah, that's where you stand. Again, this is not the time to go looking for the masjid that's there. No. Because again, you get lost, you miss your ride to Mina, your whole 10th of the Hijjah is going to be thrown off schedule. So that's all you do in Muzdalifah, rest, wake up, pray Fajr. You're going to pray your Maghrib and Isha together at Isha time in Muzdalifah. And then no matter what time you get there, when I first went, we got there maybe half an hour before Fajr time. We were on the bus for 7 hours from between Arafah and Muzdalifah. If you're on the train, alhamdulillah, if you're on a bus, then it'll take as long as it takes, inshallah. I'll just run through this real quick and then we'll break for Maghrib, inshallah. And then you're going to go back to Mina on the 10th. The only thing you got to do on the 10th is, sorry, not the only thing. There are 4 things that are usually done. There are 3 things, sorry, rephrase this. There are 2 things that you need to do out of 3 in order to get out of the state of Ihram on the 10th of the Hijjah. The order that the Prophet ﷺ did these things is stoning Jabrat al-Aqaba, the largest pillar, and then he sacrificed his animal, then he shaved his head, and then he made the Tawaf al-Ifada, the Sa'i, right, for the Hajj. Doing these things in order, according to the majority, is not a requirement. According to some, it is. Now, to those, which is according to the Hanafi school, for example, that the order is important, you have to follow it. They have an issue with the sacrifice. And I know right now that even some of the muftis from Pakistan have said, don't worry about the order because it's not going to be able to be possible. You don't know. So the authorities sacrifice your animal. It could be on the 10th, it could be on the 11th, it could be on the 12th, it could be on the 13th. Realistically speaking, it could be after that. It's not under your control, so it's not your fault at that point, right? So if you go and stone the pillar, and then there's really no way for you to be fully informed when your sacrifice is done. Right? The majority of the fuqaha, they say the order is not important. The order is not important. And they have hadith for that, they have evidence for that. The Sahaba came, did things out of order. The Prophet said, don't worry, right? So practically what you're going to do is you're going to stone the pillar, you're going to shave or trim your hair. And if you've done 2 out of 3, and the 3 things are stoning the pillar, shaving your hair, and tawaf, not the sacrifice. Any 2 out of the 3, you can get out of ihram. So the practical one, stoning, and then shaving your head, you are done with your ihram, you can take it off, you can put on perfume. The only thing that's not allowed is marital relations. Everything else is allowed. And then your sacrifice will be done on your behalf. You've already paid for that. And then you will do your tawaf and sa'i with your group. Depends on if you can go by yourself. The group I go with, they go on the 11th at night after Isha, because over the many years they've seen that that is the time where the rush is not as much, right? So you can do it on the 10th, you can do it on the 11th, you can do it on the 12th, right? The tawaf al-ifada. You'll be out of ihram, you can do it in any one of those days. But you're going to do your tawaf, the same way we mentioned, your sa'i, the same way we mentioned, the 11th and 12th, you're going to stone all 3 pillars, that's a wajib, smallest one, the middle one, and the large one, 7 times each, Allahu Akbar, with each time you throw. The Prophet ﷺ would make dua after the small one, would make dua after the middle one, not after the third one, because he was done with the stoning, right? So he would do this as well. You do this on the 11th, you do this on the 12th. Again, according to the majority, it is wajib for you to stay in Mina. So unless you're gone for tawaf, you should come back to your tents in Mina and stay there. According to the other scholars, it is the sunnah. And again, this is what you've already paid for those tents, and use up all the ajr that you're going to get from being in those places. And then before you leave Mecca, you do one final tawaf. No sa'i, this is tawaf al-wada', this is your last tawaf. Now this doesn't mean you do tawaf and you can no longer stay in the masjid. This is your last visit to Masjid al-Haram, do your tawaf, and then you can still stay in the masjid and pray or whatever you have to do, but after that you're not going to be coming back to the Haram, and you're going to be leaving Mecca, inshallah. So we'll go ahead and stop here, we'll break for Maghrib. If there's any questions, I'll come back here after we do our sunnah of Maghrib and stuff, and then we can take questions, right? So if you have any questions, I will stay and we will answer questions, but we need to pray our selection.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.